Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's stream. Today I want to talk to you about why I think EOS is being chosen by so many Dapp developers. So, like it says in the video description, this started out as my intention. I'll just write a few notes about EOS token economics and what affects the price going up or what affects the price going down in terms of like supply and demand forces and so on. Well, it quickly exploded into a world of complexity, which I then modeled out on a whole bunch of pieces of paper. I've got them here. If you want to see them, like I just did like diagrams and diagrams and diagrams. I was like a mad scientist. Anyway, I've modeled it all out, but it's way too complex to go through in one video. So I'm gonna slice out the value proposition for Dapp developers and then present it to you for comment. So this is purely from a Dapp developer's point of view, right? It's the value proposition to them. So no silly comments about, well, Chris, you forgot this, or Chris, you forgot that. No, I didn't forget anything. I've left it out on purpose, right? Because we need to create a boundary around the content. Otherwise, it will just be, unfathomable. So please do me a favor and isolate your comments to the content of this video, right? If you want to have a useful discussion, please do that. Right, we have a one-use coupon code for the day. It's in the video description. It'll get you access to Cryptoversity. Where's it gone? There's Cryptoversity right there. Cryptoasset.school is the domain name. One person can use the coupon code in the video description to get 50% off, and it can only be used once today. So whoever uses it gets it, and then that's it. Second person tries to use it, you'll get an invalid coupon code error, and you'll have to wait till the next video to get another one. Righto, so I've got a presentation, a few slides, 4 slides actually, and then we're going to go over to the model that I've built for you, which I'll explain in story format. So let's go over to my Google Slides here. Let's put it in presentation mode. Here we go. So here we go then. Why I think EOS is being chosen by so many app developers. This is the value proposition for Dapp developers specifically. Okay, I've said that twice now, and I've highlighted it in red because that's the boundary, okay? And I'm only going to include information that's relevant in that context. Otherwise, it's just going to get too complex. So if I had to put it into one sentence, the reason I think Dapp developers are choosing EOS is this. They can make a one-time investment in a stack of EOS tokens and then utilize the capacity of those EOS tokens to generate an ever-increasing income. So that is the top line. And it says on the bottom of the slide here, now I'll spend the rest of this presentation unpacking that. But if you want it in one sentence, there it is. Okay, so here's my fundamental assumption in this whole thing. My fundamental assumption is that the Dapp developers will be providing all of the resources required for their users to use their app. And that is in order to match the user experience of centralized apps that users are used to, okay? Now, let me just take that point for a second here. When we're using centralized apps, we might pay for the app, the service, or the digital product, but never do the centralized apps ever ask us to pay for their server, infrastructure, or hosting, or anything like that. That's all hidden away in the background, right? All we care about as app users is what value or service are you giving me, how much is it, and do I want to pay that money? We don't care about the back-end infrastructure, okay? Now on EOS, you can, do like a bring your own bandwidth model where you require users to stake their own EOS tokens to pay for their own network resources. That's stupid, right? Because it's alien to the most mainstream app users. So I'm assuming that if we're going to get adoption, we must match the experience of centralized apps. And that means requiring no users to have any EOS tokens of their own, okay? And the only thing they need to pay for is the value of the app, service, or product. So that's why I've got that fundamental assumption. It has to be this way if adoption is going to happen. Right, so now we're going to go over to this model. This is just a screenshot of it, but I'm going to go over to the proper model so we can see it in high definition. So I'm going to exit the presentation at this point. Oh, I've actually clicked on it. I've already got it open. Let's do a full screen on this one. So let us begin here. I've colored it all, so it's nice to look at. So let's start with this set of relationships here. On the far left, we have devs one-time investment. So developers one-time investment in X number of EOS tokens. That's the stack I talked about. And that X number of EOS tokens have a capacity, which is the yellow circle. You can barely see the text, but it says capacity, because that's what an EOS token is. It represents a certain amount of computing resources and on the EOS network. That's what I call capacity. Now then, this is important. I have to point out that EOS tokens are not consumed. They're not consumed like gas is consumed on Ethereum. EOS tokens are an asset that have a perpetual capacity. So that's a very important point. Keep that in mind. EOS tokens are an asset that you pay for once that have a perpetual capacity, which is why it's spoken about as real estate, right? Because once you own the land, you can use that land in perpetuity, right? So moving on around the model here. So the X number of EOS tokens, they have a capacity, and that capacity allows you to serve, going down to the black circle, allows you to serve Y number of users per day. And Y number of users per day will generate Z amount of income per day for the app developer, and Z amount of income per day gives an ongoing return to the developer's one-time investment. So that stack of EOS tokens that we just spoke about, that will allow the app developer to support a certain number of active daily users. And I'm saying that that pot of active daily users will generate a certain amount of income. But this is where it's interesting. As long as you've got X number of active daily users, that will be generating daily revenue. But the network capacity required to serve those people, you only pay for once by buying the EOS token asset. You with me? So the income is in perpetuity from the active users, but the cost of purchasing that capacity is a one-off thing. This is interesting. Moving on, it gets better than that. So that's the first loop. Now this would be good as it is, a one-time investment for capacity that can generate an ongoing revenue. That's great as it is. So that's loop number one here. But there's more. Look over on the far right here. I said in that slide that the one-time investment will generate an ever-increasing income. And this is how this happens. So the capacity of your EOS tokens will increase over time for two reasons. The first one is that block.one, the developers of the EOS IO software, are going to continually improve it and optimize it so that the same network infrastructure will perform better and better and better, meaning each EOS token will be able to serve more users. So that's why I've put here in the pink, EOS IO software improvements increase the capacity of an EOS token that allows you to serve more users, generate more income, and get an even better return on that one-time investment for the same number of EOS tokens. The other way that your capacity of your EOS tokens increases is by the red circle element, which is hardware upgrades by BPs, which stands for block producers. So block producers are providing the hardware and the actual network infrastructure. And as every year they upgrade their hardware, that also increases the capacity of each EOS token. And that again allows you to serve even more users per day, generate even more income per day, gives you an even bigger return on that one-time investment. And this stuff on the right, the improvements to the EOS IO software and the improvements to block producer hardware, both of which increase the capacity of your EOS tokens, that all happens without the Dapp developer having to spend any money. All you do is you buy that initial stack of EOS tokens and stake them for a percentage of network capacity. And that capacity increases over time because block.one are improving the software performance and the block producers are improving the infrastructure performance. So at no additional cost to the developer, the capacity of their tokens increases over time, allows them to serve more users, which means more income potential, which means a greater return on that one-time investment you made, God knows when. So it's it's an initial investment in capital for the EOS tokens, which then have the capacity in perpetuity. And that capacity is not just in perpetuity, it increases thanks to the block.one's work and the work of the block producers improving the performance of the network. So that is the entirety of my presentation for today. So I'll leave it there, otherwise I'll be going round in circles explaining the same thing over and over again. So thanks very much for joining me today, guys. Hit the like button if you like that. If you really like to, hit the old subscribe button. And if you're going to comment on today's episode, my comment icon isn't working, there it is. If you're going to comment on today's episode, please confine your comments to the content of today's video, because I want to have a productive discussion here. The simplicity with which I've presented this, it took me 3 hours of thinking and thought process to carve it out to this specific value proposition for Dapp developers. We can go into other stakeholder points of view in other videos, but for now, that's what I've got for you to present it through one specific point of view, which is the value proposition to Dapp developers. So hit the like button, subscribe, comment, check out my online school if someone wants to use the coupon code for the day. It's down in the video description. The other way you can support me is by going to the website, thecryptoverse.show. If you click on the blue button, which is support the show, that'll take you through to Patreon, where I've put a new trailer up here that explains how, by being a supporter of mine on Patreon, you'll actually get a return on that investment. I mean, the crypto space is all based on incentives and return on investment, right? So I'm not just asking you to give me money for nothing. There is a opportunity for a return on investment there. Watch the 4-minute trailer and it will explain it to you. Actually, today, one of my patrons upgraded to one of the higher levels. So you see now we have 65 patrons pledging $476. The patron Cryogen that upgraded today, they upgraded to one of the sponsorship levels, which means they are now sponsoring someone to get access to my online cryptocurrency investor courses for free. So now I'm going to go to my friend Tony Dada at the Dada Success Academy and help. He's going to have to source someone for me from a disadvantaged background who would like access to the cryptocurrency learning materials for free, thanks to that patron that sponsored them. It's like a scholarship. So I'm really glad someone's taken that up, and we'll see how this goes. But that's all I've got for you today. I'll be back with the next episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.